Eileen, are you there? Ellen, are you there?
Yes, I am here.
Hey, fantastic. Here we go.
We got two more coming, okay?
No problem. Send them that code and we're already live.
Yeah.
On Facebook, here we are.
Yeah. I'm gonna share it to me so I can get on as well on your page. I am too excited. Let me.
This is gonna be so much fun.
It's so much fun. So much fun. Okay, I'm gonna give that to her. Let's see. And let's see about Linda and the other two. Are you gonna record it? Because I wanted.
Sure, I'll record and I can send that to you.
Okay, and is it okay for me to pop it on my SoundCloud?
Oh, you can absolutely help yourself.
Thank you.
No problem at all.
Okay, I'm gonna grab the other two ladies. And I'm gonna do what I'm doing right now.
Okay.
This is too much. I've been trying to talk to you for 10 years, okay?
Here we are. 10
years it took me to get you.
Listen.
In a topic like this, when did you write this book? When did it go to publications?
It came out in 2010. Yep, and it's so crazy. So I'm appreciating you. I'm appreciating everybody here. Y'all, we're going to get started in this discussion in like all of 30 seconds. All of you on Facebook, thank you all for joining us. I'm going to talk about the makings of perfect peace. I'm going to talk about how this book came about. I'm going to talk about how it was put together. I'm going to talk about themes in it. I'm going to talk about this book on every level conceivable. So if you have heard of Perfect Peace or if someone's told you about it, jump on in with us right here. Just get right on in with us. Share with friends so we can get word out about this book. So Ellen, thank you. And thank you for your book club for choosing this book, certainly.
You are so welcome. My lighting, I'm sorry. I thought I had good lighting until you came on. Your lighting is real good.
Oh my gosh. No problem. Here we are.
So I know that I'm at your house. And so I want to talk about you at your house. And I got so much to talk about. Wait a minute, I'm getting Sonia now. So much to talk about. And that your book was way before its time.
I think so.
Way, because I was talking to a lady the other day, and she was like, is that real? So in 2010, it's a story.
Right.
But now, the time we're in now.
That's right. And everybody's talking about transgender, this, that, and the other, and gender fluidity. And yes, this book came out 10 years ago. So you're right. I think I was just slightly ahead of the curve.
Yes. So tell us about yourself. I know that I'm visiting you at your house. So tell us about you. It's so many facets to you. And
Sure.
just tell us about yourself, the backdrop of this book. And certainly we want to get into those characters and dig into this book.
Certainly. Well, I am professor of African American Studies at Clark Atlanta University. I've been there almost 30 years. This is my 29th year on faculty. I'm also a graduate of Clark Atlanta University, right? I'm very proud to say. I'm a writer. I write full-time. I'm a full-time professor. I'm part of an amazing organization, a community called Ndugu and Nzinga, which is a rites of passage or an initiation society here in Atlanta. So I do a lot of that. We do a lot of that. Let's see, what else will I say? I'm the choir director at church. So, a lot of the musical references, yes. A lot of the musical references in church come from the fact that I was a musician sitting on the piano bench. Yes. I'm a man who loves God. I love my people. I love righteousness. I love character. I love principle. I love integrity. And I love the written word. I really, really love the written word. I love that scripture in the Bible that says, in the beginning was the word, and the word was God, and the word was with God, and the same was in the beginning with God. which suggests really that words or literature and divinity all go together, that you can create divine things when you put the right words together.
Yes.
No, yes, yes, yes. And I believe that. I absolutely believe that. So I'm a man who loves the magic of words and sentences and word formations. So this book came about because I saw a child many years ago, Ellen, whose gender I could not determine. You know how you see a person and you're like, is that a boy or a girl? You know, and of course you can't go up to folks and ask, right?
No, you cannot.
You cannot do that. So I saw a child whose gender I could not determine. And I was troubled, Ellen, because what I realized, right, and realized kind of very early on, if you will, is that I needed to know, you know, and I couldn't figure out why I needed to know, because I knew how to treat a human being. So what difference did it make if this child was boy or girl? You know, and so I was troubled in my spirit, right? I was really, 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 really troubled. And I was troubled because I just did not know. I just didn't know how to kind of interact with this child. And I realized that the limitation was mine and not the child's, right? So I began to wonder just what a person's life might be like. We have a new friend who joined us. Hey, sister, how you doing?
How you doing?
Hey. I began to wonder, hey, Sonia, hey. I began to wonder what a child's life might be like whose gender we never knew, or whose gender was ambiguous. And I wondered this specifically, right, in the Black community, right? I wondered how not just human beings would deal with this child, but how Black folks specifically would deal with this child, right? And that was interesting to me because sometimes on issues of gender, sexuality, et cetera, we can be highly conservative, right?
That's
we
true.
can be, yeah, we can be very, very conservative. And so this story began to come to me about this child whose gender was unknown or was at least ambiguous. But when the book first started coming to me, the only thing I knew was that there was a mother and she was pregnant and that she was going to have this quote unquote son whose gender she was going to augment. That's all I knew. I didn't know there were going to be any other brothers. All I knew when I first started this book is that Emma Jean was pregnant. So I came home, Ellen, I lifted up my laptop and perfect peace flowed from my laptop, straight from my head into my laptop. I just closed my eyes and it came to me. It really literally just came to me. The characters came to me. And so Emma Jean, of course, had one son after the other son, after the other son, after the other son, right? Just a succession of boys. And then, of course, she gets to her seventh child and she doesn't have the girl she's always wanted. But she decides that, you know, why can't I? Why can't I? Because, you know, we raise boys, we raise girls. So why can't you raise whomever, however you want? Right? To most of us as readers, of course, we think it's a horrific idea. It's a horrific thought. But what Emma Jean is doing, certainly far ahead of her time, is she's playing with the constructs of gender. Emma Jean is playing with this idea that gender is not as fixed nor as rigid as we might think. She's playing with this notion, right, that boys and girls are made, not born. That you got to raise one. That just because a person has a penis doesn't mean you'll get a masculine human being. And the truth is, she's right.
Yeah.
Right. But she's doing this in the 40s, of course, when people, especially Black folks, are highly conservative.
Yes.
Right. So this notion that you gonna do what? You said what? You gonna what? You know, and of course, if you all were like me, and of course, I'll be quiet in a minute and we can get to talking. Y'all were like, what the hell has this woman done? And, you know, I know it sounds crazy, y'all, but I said the same thing. Even as I was writing, I said, literally, I said, what has this woman done? Emma Jean, what are you doing? She's absolutely teasing the dimensions, the boundaries, the confines of gender as we know it. And she believes she can. And she believes she can because she's so wounded herself.
Yes.
You know, people have so traumatized her that Emma Jean is, some people read Emma Jean as even emotionally and psychologically unstable,
Mm-hmm.
which I could hear. I'm not sure I believe that. Well, yet y'all might convince me, but I do think that might be true. I'll tell you just two other things, and then I'll let you all ask me questions.
Yes,
Yeah.
I have a lot.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. One of those things I'll tell you is this book is it reverberates around the number 7. Right? The number 7 is significant in this text because this number 7 is the biblical number of perfection. There are 7 kids. Perfect is the 7th one. That's why her name is Perfect, because again, it's the biblical number of perfection. The number 7 tropes over and over and over in this text. Mm-hmm. After her 7th birthday is when the transition occurs, et cetera, right? The other thing I'll tell you is one has to really watch Daniel Black in terms of the levels of and the double meanings of the names, right? These names tell you not just who the people are, the names also tell you what they are. They tell you about their decisions. Like mm-hmm. when Emma Jean, if you'll recall, Emma Jean is a little girl and her father comes, right? She meets her father, Claude Lovejoy, right? So by birth, by inheritance, by lineage, Emma Jean really is a Lovejoy because her father is named Claude Lovejoy, right? That's right. Which means had she gone with him, that's the life she would have gotten, a life of love and joy. Mm-hmm. But because she's so obsessed with her mother and getting what she thinks she wants from her mother, Emma Jean takes on her mother's legacy. And if you recall, her mother's name was May Helen Hurt.
Yes.
So she becomes Emma Jean Hurt. And she is what her name says. She's Hurt a lifetime. And then she marries Gus, of course, and she becomes Emma Jean Hurt Peace. And she hurts each piece.
Yes, she does.
In some way or another, right? So again, these names tell us kind of the fate of the characters as much as they identify them. So I'll pause there and y'all can jump in and ask me anything you like.
I wanted to first, I'm gonna jump in and then I'll let them too.
Okay.
I wanted you to tell us, and you've already told us about the names because you got blonde, not in any order, but Arthur Lee.
Sure.
You have, you also have James Earl.
Sure.
Blind Bartimaeus is what really got me because I didn't know. We find out that he's blind.
That's right.
But at the time of naming him, I'm like, okay.
He's blind at birth.
Yes, he's blind at birth. And so there are some characters. Let me just say this. This book is phenomenal. And I don't know why Oprah didn't pick you up.
Well, we'll see.
You are a phenomenal writer, a phenomenal storyteller.
Thank you.
And I cannot believe that this was 2010. Had I read it 2010, I was like, oh, Daniel Black, whatever. But reading it now and with the, they have in society, they call it assigned gender, meaning that the gender you were born with.
Sure.
Now we can see this and people now they'll look at that and they see it differently.
Right.
Reading this story, it really got to me with Emma Jean's mother. I want to ask about that.
Yes.
What was her deal in not loving her daughter other than she's Black? Is there a backstory about Emma Jean's mother's life?
Sure.
Is there a backstory as to why?
Sure, the color, and the backstory is simply colorism. She's Black, she's dark, she hates herself, right? We all understand this, this issue of how dark skin and light skin has always played a very real role in Black America in terms of what we think about ourselves, how we see ourselves, how we treat ourselves, how we treat each other, right? There was a day where if you were light skinned, you were cute. I don't care what you actually looked like. Mm-hmm. And people used to say things like, oh my God, she's pretty for a Black girl.
Yes.
All these kinds of things. And so May Helen is one of those people. And the problem is she births a daughter who looks exactly like her. That's her struggle. See, she's been trying to have light-skinned kids. And she does so with Gracie and Pearlie.
Yes.
right? She does so. However, when Imogene comes, and Imogene is the spitting image of her, Imogene is her walking hatred. She's her walking mirror. Every time she looks at Imogene, she sees herself and she despises it. And so she treats her accordingly, right? And it is a horrible thing. But what's true, Ellen and ladies, what's true is we did that for centuries. You know what I mean? Most dark-skinned folks have stories about how they were treated, the names they were called, right? How they were compared to tar and midnight. You know, there are all these ways in which this notion of colorism continues to haunt us, right? As Black people, right? Let me say very quickly, shout out to all of you in the Facebook world. Thank you. There are like 50 people watching, and thanks on Facebook. So I love you. Aaron Washington, I love you. Victoria, I love you.
I see the numbers going up. From my end, it's almost about 50 people. On
yes.
this end.
So,
yeah.
So see, this is very important though, and your question is profound, because it's almost like surely there had to be some other reason, like what else, right? But colorism has been enough to make us hate ourselves, right? It's really not only been until the latter few years, meaning the last 10, 20 years, where Blackness has become in vogue.
Yes.
Where being dark-skinned is being seen as beautiful. That's historically, that's very, very, very new.
Yes.
Very new. And so that's what May Helen is eaten up with and by. She's eaten up by she's eaten up by the hatred of her own dark skin.
Now, Gustavia, is his name Gustavia? Gus?
Oh, Gus.
Is it Gustava?
It's actually Gustavius.
Gustavius.
And he's actually named after the very first African who was brought to this country. Well, really the first African who wrote the first slave narrative.
Now, what is his deal? For one moment, after seeing P/Paul, I thought maybe his father may have had those gender issues, being that he going out to the river screaming for healing. So what was his deal with his father?
Sure. You know, the irony here is that Gus is as effeminate as Perfect ever is. That's the irony. Remember, even from the beginning, remember when he was a little boy, his father used to beat him.
Yes. Yes, that's what I thought. I kind of just let it go because he was toughening as a man. I figured it.
But internally, he is so emotionally fragile. That's why he has to go to the river, because he has to purge his heart annually. If not, it would consume him and kill him. You know, he cries at the drop of a hat, which of course a man was not allowed to do in the 40s. Most men don't even do it now. Right? But he weeps easily. He feels deeply, which of course has nothing to do with femininity at all. People simply associate it that way. And so did Gus. So one of the things Gus promised his father is that he'd never be a sissy. And then, you know, here he has one in his house, and it infuriates him.
Yes.
Ironically, it's his own heart that his sons have inherited. Right? But this image of Gus crying at the river, I think is such a beautiful, beautiful image. You know what I mean? Like, can't you see that on screen? You know what I mean? This Black man wailing as the rain is also pounding, right? And then, of course, in a minute, a blind Bartimaeus is going to join him.
Yes.
Right? And of course, he does not fear Bartimaeus joining him because Bartimaeus is blind and cannot see him.
That's right.
So what it shows you is that masculinity is very, very superficial, and it's very fragile in many instances, because Gus's concern is simply what people think about him, not what he truly is.
That's right.
He's trying to do the performance of masculinity, right? But that's a slippery slope, because what is masculine and what is feminine changes from one day to the next.
Yes.
Right? But Gus is trying to figure out, isn't there some stable notion of masculinity I can be that will allow him to be seen as a man by everybody he knows? The problem with Gus is that he can never get rid of that heart. He can never get rid of the sensitivity of that heart, right? I don't care what he does, he can never become unsensitive. So he weeps at the river every year. But of course, in reading the text, what we see is after a while, the community people, not only do they support him, they actually need him to weep at the river.
Yes.
And I think what the author is showing there is that vulnerability makes a community strong. Because vulnerability is people's authenticity, right? Vulnerability is a person's willingness to be who they are, the way they understand God sent them, right? To be that fully and completely, to show up fully as oneself, regardless of what other people believe. That's the hardest thing in the world to do, because from the time we're born, we are made over, we are made up, we are molded and modified to fit what we think other people will prefer. We dress boys in blue, not because a baby prefers blue, but because we associate masculinity with blue, right?
Yeah, yes.
We dress a girl in pink. But if you put a boy in pink, he wouldn't mind, you know, but we mind, right?
Yes.
So we get about the business of trying to figure out how to fit children into these boxes for our comfort as limited adults, right? And that's what happens with Gus. Gus is trying to figure out how to make his boys be what the rest of the world would be proud of.
I see that Imogene saw that in Arthur Lee, the oldest, because what got me there, and I'm gonna let Sonia and Linda, Sonia and Linda is below, but what got me was that she said, Imogene said, that she was happy, I'm paraphrasing if you don't mind, that Arthur Lee was there to show the masculinity. Then I was like, what a minute, why would she say that? What's wrong with her husband?
That's right.
And then even to the point of them getting married, he didn't love her. He didn't know that type of love, but he saw that she was a good woman that could cook and can sing. The luring of her voice is what made them get married. But after that, there was no real intimacy. Sonia?
Unmute, Sonia.
Yes, unmute.
There you go. We hear you now.
Okay, he was not the oldest. He was the second oldest. He just took over as the oldest. And he kind of took over the role of kind of like being the husband to me, because, I mean, they all listened to what he had to say. And like Ellen was saying, he was like the man of the house. This book is kind of like way ahead of its time.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr.
And you're right. You're absolutely right.
Wow.
Arthur Lee. In fact, that's why his name is Arthur Lee, because he's, for all practical purposes, he's the author of the pieces. He constructs the narrative of the house. He governs what happens in the household. He determines who does what to whom and where. You know, he literally is the author of the pieces, right?
Wow. way ahead of his time. I can't even get my thoughts out. I mean, this book.
Take your time. You know, we just chatting casually, and I love this. Yes, hold the book up. Yes.
So awesome. Such an awesome read.
Oh, wow.
I have my favorites.
Yes. Okay.
Eva May. Love her.
Yes.
Love her. She was such a strong character in the book. And her friendship with Perfect Shots / Paul was so awesome. Even when they fell out, they always came back together.
That's right.
She was always there to protect him in childhood and in adulthood.
That's right. And she is his Eve. That's why her name is Eve.
Yes.
Which means this is perfection and Eve. Remember when they were looking for the 4-leaf clover?
Yes.
Right. That is perfection and Eve back in the Garden of Eden.
And the act she committed just to, when I started that chapter, when the fire started, I was like, it had to be her.
Yeah.
Because no one else knew who the boys were.
Right.
And I was like, oh my God.
Yes.
She did
was ride or die. And in this case,
was ride or die.
She was.
Till the end, she was ride or die. Till
Absolutely.
the end, she was ride or die. And like I love that friendship. I love the bond that they formed in that book.
Yes, yes. And also, it's important also that it's a woman, it is a girl in this book who has the capacity to love perfect, regardless of what perfect is.
Exactly.
It's not just that it's Eva May, but it's also important that it's a woman. Meaning, I think Daniel Black is a little womanist, even in this construction, right? Because what it's saying is that women who have this triple oppression, if you will, right? Women know trauma, women know horror, women know pain in different ways than men know it, from every single corner and every possibility. So the capacity to love is different in a woman's heart very often. And in this case, Eva May is absolutely positively the one who says, listen, oh my God, you got a penis? Really? Can I see it? Because what she says, I don't care what you got. Whatever you have works for me, right? So Eva May introduces not just the fluidity in sexuality, she also introduces the fluidity in the mind in terms of allowing someone to be their complete selves and their total selves without her judgment. And I'm saying it takes a girl, it takes a woman, it certainly took one in the 1940s to pull that off. Most men are not that flexible. Masculinity does not allow the boundaries of fluidity typically in that way.
You know who I thought was one of the smartest person in this book? Everybody might not look at it that way. Sugar Baby.
Oh, absolutely.
One of the smartest person in this book.
Yes.
Another one of my favorite characters.
Yes.
Everybody might, I think most people, other people who might read this book might dismiss him as like a drunkard. One of the smartest person.
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Because Sugar Baby is prophetic.
Yes.
He is drunk, but he's also prophetic. And that's important because it is not true that his drunkenness erases his prophecy.
Exactly.
Right? Which suggests that one's state or one's condition does not rob one of one's spiritual gift.
And
so absolutely.
He saw everything that was happening, knew everything that was going on. And people would just dismiss him, thinking he was just crazy, but he knew, he saw, and oh my God, I love his character in the book. He was awesome.
Absolutely. I appreciate that. Yes. Hey, all of y'all out in Facebook land, press share and send this to other folks, just so everybody out there in the world can join us if they would like. Okay, what else might y'all want to talk about? I have a whole list of things. Okay, please, go ahead. Yes, ma'am.
I don't want to bombard the conversation, so someone else could take over because I have a lot to say.
Wait a minute.
I can't hear.
Unmute. Okay.
There you go.
Hi, good evening.
Hi.
I enjoyed this book, the whole story path, but I'm going to say my favorite part was the ending. The ending, because I looked at Imogene, and when she went to the Jordan, first of all, when she left the home with her pocketbook.
Oh, yes.
And went to the Jordan, she was taking only thing that she possessed that was hers.
Yes.
And that, why did she go to the Jordan? I looked at it that she went to the Jordan because that's where they found peace.
Yes.
Her husband found peace, and that I looked at that all of her sons, she saw a piece of her in each of them.
Yes.
Bartimaeus, that was blind, he couldn't see what the reality of her life was.
Yes.
Saul was smart. She was a smart woman, but never given the opportunity to be allowed to show how smart she was, how gifted she was in music or whatever, because she was always looked as a downtrodden. She was never anything good. There was nothing good about it, because in the end, it said that her name was supposed to be no good? Or
nobody.
Nothing.
Nobody. Right.
Okay.
Right.
And perfect. The reason she named Paul perfect, because in her eyes, he was all that she wanted to be. She wanted to be perfect.
Yes,
She wanted to be loved. She wanted to have the birthday party. She gave Paul everything she was denied, even down to the doll baby, Olivia.
That's right.
And so when she went into the Jordan, I looked at that, even though she had the mental breakdown, the only way that she could find peace was to go into that Jordan and let it envelope her with the love. Even though she couldn't swim, all she wanted to do was be embraced with love. And that was the only thing that would not judge her, would not have a name for her. It just enveloped her with the love.
Yes.
And she died peacefully.
Absolutely.
And that was my favorite piece, because I never even expected that to happen.
Yes.
You know, when I got to the end, that probably was more profound to me out of everything, because what was she trying to tell us?
Yes, yes. And in fact, if you don't mind, I want to read just a section of that.
Sure. I have my book.
Imogene stood on the banks of the Jordan and reviewed her life. What a mess she had made. Everyone she tried to love, she ended up hurting. Maybe she'd been cursed from the beginning, she thought. Maybe the point of her life had been to show people what not to do. And with such a mission, she'd been doomed from the start. Gazing across the water, she shook her head and sang, I need thee, oh, I need thee. Her arms stretched toward the heavens as she continued, oh, bless me now, my Savior. She leaned back and bellowed, I come. Waiting for the magical moment, she swayed and hummed as the roar of the Jordan promised an imminent transformation. It's up to you now. I did the best I could. It wasn't good enough. I'm not a bad person. Really. Really, my mama hurt me. You know that. Don't start that again. It's true. Then I'll love you. There's nothing more you can do here. No one else needs you now. What about Paul? He's so young. You'll never fix what you did. Never. Imogene believed it. I'm your only friend now. Come and be with me. How? How can I be with you? And Silence says, meet me in the water. I'll carry you away. But Imogene says, will you love me? Yes, I will. Forever? Forever. Do you promise? Yes, Imogene, I promise. And with that, Imogene didn't hesitate. Unable to foresee herself in the future, she marched boldly to the edge of a jutting rock, and with the help of God's heavy hands, plunged head first into the chilly Jordan. It swallowed her whole and rocked her in its tumultuous bosom. It loved her and accepted her for who she was and who she wasn't. The Jordan embraced her with loving arms and never let her go. The Jordan was no respecter of persons, so it stripped Imogene of everything she had. Clothes, memories, guilt, shame, as it prepared her for the land of everlasting love. She'd get a new body too. That's what Reverend Lindsay had said. And maybe if she got the chance to live again, she'd come back as a pretty little Black girl, one others would smile at and want to give sweets to. She'd ask God not to make her so Black this time that her mother would beat her for it, but to give her hair like her sisters and soft caramel skin like Paul's. But if she couldn't live again, she wouldn't be angry. She'd lived once, and once had certainly been enough. Wow.
Yeah. Wow. So that right there was really, to me, the entire story.
Wow.
She lived her life through her boys. And at the end, when she couldn't go any further, she was at peace with what happened.
That's right.
The good and the bad.
Good and the bad. Right. That's
but,
right. That's
you
right.
know, and I said, why did she take her purse? Because that's all she possessed. She owned nothing else. She had nothing else. So she took only thing she had.
That's right. And as Ellen said earlier, that and her voice.
And her voice.
She had this
That's
voice.
all she
That's
had.
why she's at the Jordan just wailing, right?
Yeah.
She has been in the depths of despair. She has absolutely felt rejected. She has made so many mistakes. And at this point, all she can do is plead and beg for God and the elements, right? To love her. So when she sings, "I need thee," she's bellowing something from her soul. Every hour I need thee. Oh my God. And she knows human beings won't forgive her. But perhaps, maybe God will. And what it shows too is no peace is perfect. It's just what you said. She finds a peace. It is not perfect though. And that's the whole point. That any peace, any perfect peace is something you made up. It's not real. Just like this child was something Emma Jean made up. Yeah.
The Jordan was speaking to me, man. I was like, wow. I want to go to the Jordan. That took on a life in itself. The Jordan itself.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. That was like, you read and you're like, you're reading about all the characters, but the Jordan was like, you're reading and it's actually speaking to you. Like, that's how I felt when I was reading it. It was like calling to you, like, I'm healing.
Yes.
This is where you need to be. Come and I will heal you. Oh my goodness. That is so profound.
And the beauty of the Jordan is that the Jordan is really trying to offer the community ritual. The Jordan is trying to offer the community ritual. And what ritual does is ritual aligns those things which have gotten so out of line that human beings cannot fix it. The point of ritual is that spirit will assist human beings with that which needs fixing, that which needs healing, if we can get with spirit and surrender and submit. And every time Gus goes to the Jordan, he's doing ritual, right? He's surrendering his heart, he's surrendering his spirit, right? And Emma Jane should have been going with him. But see, what I'm showing in this book is that the lack of ritual in a Black community is result in trauma. Even this notion of going to church, right, which is a beautiful, beautiful thing, that at one point was kind of the way Black folks did ritual. We met at the church and we sang and we prayed and we hummed. The church was the place where Black people got together and met spirit. The minute we as African people believe that we don't need ritual anymore, it's a downward spiral. It's a downward spiral. It's a downward spiral. And that happens here with Emma Jean. She needs ritual badly. She needs spirit. She needs community, you know, and she really, really, really needs it badly. And so at the end, y'all are right. When she goes to the Jordan, for the first time in many, many years, she's finally doing ritual. And the Jordan talks to her. That's where silence meets her. You know, it's this whole belief by our people that if you'll submit yourself to God, God will speak to you. And you can hear what God says to you. And the point, whenever a person diverts from community, right? What the book is saying is the point will come where you have to circle back to it, because the community covers you in ways that you don't even know or don't even remember, right? And that has been true for Emma Jean. That has absolutely been true, which is why Gus stays connected to Sugar Baby. Yes, and these people are flawed, but flawed people are in every community. All of us are flawed people. You know, there's nothing true. And you can be flawed and wonderful. You know, I think that's very important, you know, for us to be very clear about.
Right.
That
I even
so
like
true.
Saul.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Saul.
Oh, absolutely.
I looked at him for determination.
Yes.
That he didn't let anything stop him from achieving what he wanted to achieve. And it showed his strength.
That's right.
Because no one guided him. He took a chance.
Yes.
You know, he went back. To me, what he learned through his faith was to have that no fear.
Yes. Yes.
Walk by faith, not by sight. He didn't know what he was going to be faced with when he went off to try to get into college.
That's right.
And even though he was heartbroken for a minute because that woman was so rude to him, and you
Right.
know, with the application, and
Right.
he did not give up, and he found that one person that would believe in him. And if we just find that one person
Absolutely.
that believes in us
Absolutely.
to push us, and he didn't let anything stop it. You know, I was just so I looked at his strength.
Yes, he's extremely strong. And the thing about Saul is that he is the alter ego to Paul.
Yes.
This is
Yes.
the Saul-Paul dichotomy biblically.
Yes.
Right? They're really they share a soul, they share a spirit, which is why when Saul sings all of my help, it's for Paul. Right? Because Paul needs that melody. Paul needs this transformation. See, Saul has been brilliant from the beginning. Saul is actually Paul's healer, which is why, of course, when he comes back in the end, in one conversation, he gets Paul together. Right? Because Saul has this in him. He goes to college and never went to high school. What it's also showing is that God sends some people, and I don't care what happens to them. Their destiny is for them to thrive. You know, and what it's suggesting also is, Black people, if we get clear about our own agency, right, our own ability to determine our own future, our own ability to set our own course, our own ability along with God, right, to decide how we're going to live, to decide just how healed we're going to walk, that regardless of whatever the past has been, one can survive anything. There is no spirit that's ever been made whose experiences are greater than their agency. The problem is that most people don't understand the power of their own agency. Most people never even access it. Most people think that we're actually the victims of what other people do to us. Really, the point of this book is to say you can create the things, the people you need. You can create the self you need. You can create the existence you need if you will believe in yourself, regardless of whatever happened to you.
I know a lot of things you brought out too. Like this, like I said, it's so many things in this book and way before its time. One thing, and us as a Black community, since you said it, we might as well just put it out there. One thing that we do notice with, let's say, Perfect Peace / Paul Perfect Peace, you know, back and forth with saying him. When she created this gender that she wanted, this girl that she wanted, what really got me to, that you brought out, is that here you have Perfect Peace, raised from birth to 8 years old. Now she had to find out that she is not a girl. But then what you really brought out, that was for the mom. But what for the father, what got me was, now he was like, okay, this was a girl, now it's a boy. I don't even know how to sort my feelings between treating this girl, now boy. He was confused himself. And that just set him on fire. The fact that she did that to him, and he was loving her more, being the girl he thought he was, and then beating. This is the catcher. In my family, we have people that are gay, and I'm sure that quite a few people have people who are gay.
Sure.
Now, I don't think that, and this is me personally, Daniel, I believe if you're born with the gender that you, that's who you are. But once you change I don't think that your sexuality should negate me treating you certain type of way. If you were a male, I'm gonna still treat you as a male, but I know that's not the, I forgot the word to use.
Like the politically correct thing to do.
Yeah, and the proper nouns and pronouns and all that stuff nowadays to offend. But he did not deserve all that he had done to him when he got a little older. And when the father started beating him, you showed in the book that if a person, for some reason in their life, some trauma, or they choose to be gay, there's no beating in the world that could stop this person from being what they've chosen to be. You showed that in there. His father's going to beat him, so you couldn't beat it out of him. And then the men in the church, you know, that laughed at him, call him a sissy, faggot, all that.
Sure.
They were saying, well, maybe he need a female. And then some people say, well, even if he needed a female, she's not going to stop him from that desire of wanting to be attracted to males.
Right.
And so
Right.
you point out those pointers of those different type of things that we think that will convert him, if you would, back into being a male.
Right. But and see, the problem with this, Ellen, is that we're trying to figure out how to, if you will, honor the categories of human existence that have been imposed by the West. In other words, the real problem is even this notion that sexuality is chosen. I'm one who believes, right, and much research has shown that you don't choose your sexuality, you're born with it, right? So whether one is gay, lesbian, heterosexual, whatever, it's in you. You come here with it. See, for me, if you can be born heterosexual, then you can be born homosexual. If you can be born with any sexuality, you can be born with any variety of possibility, right? But the real truth, too, is whether that's true or not is really not the issue. The issue is, can we honor you regardless of the way you move in existence? And that's the point. That's the real issue. Can we honor however a person shows up in the world, right? Can we honor, can we love you? Because what also is true is we all choose to show up in various ways at various times. And sometimes it's sexuality, sometimes it isn't. But the irony in this book is that Paul is not the gay character. Mr. is, right? The gay character is not even the one people are absolutely finding problematic. But see, what's deep about Mr. being gay is Mr. never dressed in dresses, Mr. none of anything. Mr. simply came to the universe gay, period.
That was the shocker for me.
Yes,
I was like, what? Wait a minute, what?
The problem is we keep trying to explain how a person ended up gay. It's not a how. It's simply their being. So the notion that Mr. is gay, the problem with most readers is that we can't figure out, quote unquote, how he became gay. He didn't become gay. He came gay. That's who he was.
Trying to figure it out. I was trying to figure it out. I was just surprised. I was like, what?
And there's nothing to figure out.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. I was just like, Mr. What? Get out of here.
Right. There's nothing to figure out. He's simply gay. It's like trying to figure out why somebody's short. It's just who they are.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about Henrietta?
There's nothing to figure out.
Can you talk? Yes. Can you address Henrietta?
Yes. Henrietta,
because Henrietta was.
I can.
I wasn't quite sure where she was coming from. The embarrassment, you know, when she was the midwife, she, you know, threw her bag. She burned her bag up.
Yes.
Was that a sense of? I look at it that she felt that she had disappointed her community because she carried this secret where normally she would go out and celebrate and make an announcement.
Right.
But because she was stifled, she felt she had let her community down. Can you just talk a little bit about her?
Sure. First of all, the problem with Henrietta is that in the beginning, and everybody, well, not everybody, lots of readers have been sympathetic to Henrietta for, quote unquote, what Imogene does to her. I don't share that position, because on the day Perfect is born, my thing to Henrietta is, Henrietta, if you didn't want to keep the secret, why didn't you tell it? Because she's protecting herself. Because she has a secret that she's really protecting, because Imogene just happens to know it. See, my thing was, then Henrietta tell it, and if Imogene tells you a secret, so what? Right? So what? The so what is Henrietta has her own lie that she's trying her best not to tell. That's the problem. But here's the problem. The nature of Henrietta's lie seems more honorable than the nature of Imogene's lie. And so readers tend to side with Henrietta. But see, Henrietta stole a child too. She absolutely did. And she never told the father, though he lived right there in the same community. Right? But that's why her name is Henrietta Worthy. Worthy, meaning whose lie is worthy of the rest of us upholding it? Whose lie can we find honorable because we can justify it?
She was not one of my favorites, and I had no sympathy for her either, because
either.
like you said,
I did not.
she had her own secret. And like you
Yeah.
said, she could have told the truth if she wanted to.
That's right.
She was hiding her own secret for
That's
what
right.
she did.
That's
Because
right.
like you said, what she did seems more honorable, but it was still a lie. It was still a secret. And she kept a child from her father.
And I think what she does to Imogene at the end is entirely over the top. I think she goes too far trying to ruin her, because really, Henrietta, you ruined yourself because you wouldn't admit your own truth.
Yes.
But you know what? I looked at Henrietta. I looked at it a little differently.
Really?
Okay.
She brought Imogene into her truth. Because had she not done that, even though yes, Imogene, her body suffered the mental breakdown, but had she not done that, how long would Imogene continue to suffer, holding those truths?
Yes, but that was not it. It's not Henrietta's job to purge Imogene.
It wasn't her. I don't look at it that it was her job, but I believe that Imogene would not have come to peace, even though we may not look at it.
Okay.
Because sometimes your pain will force you to deal with your circumstance.
Absolutely.
So Imogene was just the mechanism that got her there. No, I didn't like what Henrietta did to her, but I believe she was used so that Imogene could find her day of peace.
I understand. I absolutely understand.
Now that's the way I look at it.
Sure. Let me ask you this as Black women. On the day that Perfect's gender, Paul's Perfect's gender, is revealed, you know, after Imogene takes Perfect into the woods and comes back to the house, were y'all angry at Gus for hitting Imogene?
I was.
Yeah.
Okay. Sonia?
Yeah, I have mixed feelings. I'm not gonna say I wasn't. I mean, I thought he could have handled it a different way.
Okay.
Maybe yell, scream, maybe not put his hand on her. But what happened? This is what I thought was kind of profound too. What happened? It kind of made him stepped up more manlier than he was before. Because now she was the one sleeping on the floor. You know, she was the one sleeping on the pallet on the floor. She was the one who had to now listen to what
more manly.
I mean, like, that's like, because usually he would kind of like, she was so strong with what she used to say, and he would just listen, like, you know, and just kind of back down, you know, when she would talk and the things she would say. But when that happened, it's kind of like he kind of stepped up more, like, you know, woman, you're not going to do this. You're not going to do this anymore. Now you're going to sleep on the floor and I'm sleeping on the bed. I know the reason why they were like not sleeping together, but now it's like, you're on the floor now. I'm on the bed. And you're going to listen to what I'm saying now instead of me just, you know, you say something and I'm going to be quiet now. So, you know, that was kind of a change in him that I kind of saw when that situation happened.
Okay, I see what she's saying. Like he was less docile as he was before.
Not more manly, but kind of
less docile, because I would say that's what it made him do. But I don't think he should have beat her like that. But I think it was warranted, but not in that sense. And I'm saying to Gus, like, Gus, you mean you couldn't take the time to go see your baby and find out yourself? You usually be the one with the Bible writing the names. Why weren't you in there writing the Bible name this time? Why did you just take a back seat? Because he was so involved with his anger of her saying that she couldn't have no more kids. And then he took the chance on being intimate with her. And now he was so infested and invested in that he couldn't see the blinders that he put on himself. That's what I
said.
But I don't,
and I agree.
I don't see it that way as far as when the child was born, because if you look at the time period back then, a lot of men were not allowed in the room when Yeah, men weren't allowed in the room when their wife was giving birth. So that's how I look at it when Paul was born. So that's how I see that part of it and stuff like that. So that's
See,
just my take on
I
that.
looked at it where he was mad at himself because he did not step up, even though he couldn't be in the room when the child was born. But he should have never allowed Imogene to tell him he couldn't be the father, change her diaper, really to see, give her a bath or give him a bath. And I believe that all of that anger came out from what he carried from a little boy all the way through that he was disappointed in himself of not being a man, and he lost control. So I was angry at him that you should have went to the Jordan. If you were that angry, take yourself to the Jordan and just let God help you work it through. You should never have put your hands on her, because it was just as much his fault as it was hers. Because back in the day, the man was the man. The woman, she cooked and cleaned, but she was not that boss.
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, absolutely. I understand very clearly. I think I have very different positions here, but that's good. That's why
yes. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, please go ahead.
I kind of see also, just to take on everybody as far as, where the anger came from. Like, this was his little girl, who like he was thinking, like, I was kissing her on the lip. This was my baby. Then I found out he was a boy. Like, I was kissing my son.
Right.
And I think the anger and the rage of the thought that, oh my God, like, this was my little girl. I was kissing her. I was like, she was sitting on my lap. How could I not know? So I think that anger also.
Well, Bartimaeus, he still know.
Yeah,
he knew himself for not telling.
Yes.
But here's another thing I want to ask you too, as the writer of this wonderful book. And I know all of us might feel a different way, as I do, about to ask you the question. In this day and time, now that we're talking about gender, gender roles and gender, whatever I'm trying to say, that you can, the gender you were born with, or whatever they call it nowadays, I'm just trying to learn as everybody else. I personally don't think, now that they have in society, that a person, if he's 8 years old and if he chooses to be a girl, the parents are kind of persuading him and letting him be that gender.
Sure.
Now, me personally, I don't think, and I'm thinking I was born in the 60s, so I'm thinking in that mindset back there. I don't think that a person or a kid that's 8 years old know what he wants his sexuality to be. I don't think they even think about sex, and we are living in a different era, but I don't think that we as a parent, and I have 3 girls, 1 boy, to groom this person, and it could just be me, throw bricks and fire at me, into the gender that he chose to be. And he hasn't even had sex yet. He doesn't even know what that part is. And I know at 3, like you showed in the book, and we do, that's the age where you feel like you're in love. Do you love me? Yes or no? You're 3rd grade, something like that. But I just want to put that question toward you. Do you think, and hopefully nobody throws stones at you, that a person or a child at 8 years old, be it male or female, in this particular sense, a male, does he really know what his sexuality is, preference-wise, that he want to say, I want to change myself into a female?
Okay, here's the thing. First, gender and sexuality are 2 different things. Gender and sexuality are not the same thing. So that's what's first very, very important for us to get clear. The notion of gender, right? Gender is a socially constructed notion of the way we perform our physicality, right? That's one thing. Sexuality is the notion of desire, is the notion of intimacy, right? and the notion of who we might be attracted to, right, in terms of a sexual way. But it's important not to conflate gender and sexuality as if they are the same thing first. The second thing is, I absolutely think that children know who they are. I think that a 3-year-old or 4-year-old is all there. I think that sexuality is inborn in people. I think a 5-year-old little boy knows if he's attracted to little girls or finds them attractive. I think a 5-year-old boy knows if he's attracted to boys. The problem is we as the adults can't handle it. That's the problem. The problem is if it's not the truth we prefer, we force our truth onto those bodies and those beings. You know, if a 5-year-old little boy says, oh, that little girl is cute, we all say, oh, he got a little boyfriend, which means we approve. If he says, oh, that boy is cute over there, we say, you stop that. That's not what, that ain't what you're supposed to be. See, what we're really doing is imposing our own constructs upon a free spirit, right? And it can go either way, boys or girls, it can go either way, but it happens all the time. It happens all the time. And the reason this is important is because this notion of what do children know about themselves? Children know far more about themselves than adults are willing to admit, right? Even this, right, of the three of you, if you had, say, an 8-year-old son, right? Not saying he's gay or anything. You just had an 8-year-old son, and if he wanted his room pink, can he have a pink room? One of you says yes. Ellen, you're saying absolutely not. Okay. Not. I appreciate y'all's honesty. I appreciate your honesty. Sonia, what are you saying?
I wouldn't care.
It wouldn't move you one way or the other.
I wouldn't care. No.
Okay. Okay, Ellen,
men who wear pink, I love men who wear pink.
I do too. I think they're masculine.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm always complimented. I'm like, oh my God.
Yep.
Like, you know
Love
what?
it.
I love it.
So Ellen, you're saying absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
Okay, no problem. Okay. Okay. Now, Ellen, why not?
Because I'm gonna go biblically.
What's biblical about pink?
Pink.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying for the gender role that I you know, male and female. But I will tell you this, that having 3 girls first, I'm just gonna be honest.
Yes,
I'm
good.
gonna go to the riverbank. Okay, I'm going to the Jordan with this. I had the 3 girls first, and then my son. I wouldn't say that I didn't want him to be feminine. I did not. He didn't do anything like that or anything like that, but I just was like, okay, I got 3 first. I got to make sure that I treat him like a boy. Because I didn't want him to be effeminate. I didn't.
And why not?
I didn't.
Why not?
Because I believe that a man should be a man and a woman should be a woman.
But can a man be a man and be effeminate?
I know that men can be effeminate and not necessarily gay. I know that.
And can't they be effeminate and still be strong men?
Yes. Yes.
And see, I think that's a powerful point. And I'm loving your truth. Thank you, Ellen, for being honest. Seriously.
I had to go to the Jordan.
No, I get it. I get it. And that's the hope of this book, that it would spur these kinds of conversations, right? And all of us are coming from different walks of life and coming with different truths and different influences, etc. And it's so important for us to be truthful and to be honest about it. Because Ellen, I'm gonna be honest with you, 90% of people I've asked this question about the pink room, the parents say absolutely not. They say absolutely not. The thing that's strange to me about it, though, is the pink won't make him gay. The pink won't make him gay, nor will blue assure that he's not gay. Right? I mean, right?
That's true.
It's true. It's true.
But what do you think about this too? When you did that church scene, and let's go with us Black people again.
Right.
When a person is gay, bisexual, whatever, trans, whatever, we will have them in our churches. We'll accept them, but we won't accept them.
Right. Right.
So I think that how like in the church they handle it in your story, there was a lot of whispering, and then there were some people that loved. Now I like Mammy.
You liked her.
I liked her, but I wanted to slap her. But I like her.
Okay. I didn't care for her.
I liked her, but I wanted to slap her. But I seen how raw and real she was with Paul, or Perfect at that time.
Right.
And how she just told him certain things. So there was a lot of emotion he went through. But I'm glad you did write this story. But like I say, before it's time, but now it's in its time.
That's right. That's right. Yes, ma'am.
To see something like this.
That's right.
And there's nothing we could do with it if they choose to be gay, straight, bisexual, whatever.
Again, yes, ma'am. And the only thing I'm gonna say is I don't think anybody chooses it. In fact, I'm gonna be very honest. I can't see why anybody would choose it. The way this culture treats gay and lesbian individuals, I could not think of one reason anybody would want to be that from the beginning. I can't think of it at all. Right? I don't think people choose it. But I think the greater point for me is, hey, Baba Norman, my father's on here. I think the greater point here is that if we're not careful, we make people believe that they are created by God or they're not. So not just notion, right? So this notion of if it's like, if I chose this, then you're not what God sent. Which means if we're not careful, we put our constructs of gender and sexuality even onto our divinity, right? We'll put into God's mouth the rejection of an entire set of people, right? As if you're not right spiritually, right? The problem with that is that then you own God. Because then you can say what God likes, what God doesn't, what God believes, what God doesn't believe, etc. And that is a very dangerous place, because then folks we put our own limitations upon the God we serve. So that God ends up thinking just like you. Right? And God says, my ways are not your ways. My thoughts are not your thoughts. In fact, your thoughts from my thoughts, the scripture says, are as far as the east from the west. Right?
And you know, we all born with sin. In my religious mind or Christian mind,
yes, ma'am,
we came with sin, whether it's a sin, and some people may not think that it's a sin to be gay.
Yes, I'm one of them. I don't think that at all. In fact, I think it's really problematic to think of sexuality as sin. To think of being gay as a sin, I think it's absolutely, positively problematic. I do not think being gay is a sin. And in fact, I think that God in some ways is laughing at the church for these constructs. And here's what I mean. One of the things I think is interesting, you were talking, Ellen, a moment ago about how gays and lesbians and transgender individuals can be in the church, yes, but kind of be accepted because your body's here, but people don't really accept your reality. What's so interesting to me is that very often the most creative, the most gifted people come in the queer form. But see, that's God saying, you're not gonna get rid of all of my spirit. You're not going to be able to reject all of who I am, because queer individuals carry certain manifestations of God that others do not. And the irony is that the church needs it. It needs it desperately, right? So the beauty and the brilliance of God is for God to put a part of God's self in queer form that others cannot access, and you can't have it unless you are going to invite and in fact honor the queer. God is brilliant. I think God is so absolutely brilliant, right? I think it's so absolutely brilliant. Because if we could get rid of certain sects of people, I think most people would. And God is saying, no. Oh, no. Absolutely not. And the irony here is, of course, in this book, right, that Mr. is such a wonderful, Mr. is the most masculine of the sons, but he's the gay one. Which shows then, like Sonia said, it messes readers up. Folks are like, what? Wait a minute, how the hell is Mr. gay? Because what we're doing subconsciously is we're saying, he's not effeminate. Mr. ain't no sissy, which means he does not fit the stereotypical paradigmatic ways in which we classify sexuality.
Mhm.
But that's the point. That sexuality is not a stereotype. It's a way of being.
Wow.
And some people are gay just because they were sent that way, not because something happened to them, right? People are simply who they are. And if we can stop trying to figure out which categories and boxes we can fit people into, we might be able to discover more dimensions of God. Go ahead, Sonia. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. Okay, go ahead, Sonia.
Like you were saying, as far as, you have gay men, women, Hollywood, your fashion designer, your makeup artist, oh my goodness, like the modeling world, like you look at your athletes today, you will never suspect, you will never know. So, and then I also wanted to say earlier that growing up, you're taught, and this is a saying I'm sure everybody has heard it before, from God didn't make Adam and Steve, God made Adam and Eve.
Oh, good Lord have mercy.
Here's my thing. I hate crimes. You love who you love, you are who you are. Now, me being Jamaican, being a gay man in that country, oh my God, you cannot even,
Absolutely.
there it is right there. You have to be really, you said it, they'll kill
Absolutely.
you.
They will kill you. Absolutely. And see, another thing that's important about this too, y'all, that I think is extremely important for us to look at, right? And it's been very, very, very important for us to think about, right? And that is the ways in which, if we're not very careful, we are taking on the character and the personality and the spirituality of the same people who enslaved us. We're picking up, we're learning to hate what they hate, but part of what they hated was us. So then self-hatred becomes a natural, if you will, a natural inheritance in America for people who, for all practical purposes, have believed that the God of their enslavers is the only God. That's a dangerous thing to do. And it's an unbelievably dangerous place to be, right? And so I think one of the things in this book, right, is that there's spirituality. Gus wailing at the river is spirituality for sure, right? But it's not in the church. When King Solomon is singing to the sprouts and they spring up from the ground, right? It is spirituality, but it is not church. Now, this doesn't mean that church is not spiritual, right? This does not mean church is not spiritual. It means that God is bigger than the church. That doesn't mean God is not in church, but God is more than church, as we've historically understood it, right? And the irony too is that we, the most oppressed people on the planet, would come out of that oppressing each other. Seems like we'd be the most freedom-loving people on the planet and want every spirit to be free because we know what bondage feels like. You know? But the irony of oppressed people is that in many instances, psychologically, as explained by Paulo Freire and Frantz Fanon and many others, the irony is that very often oppressed people seek nothing more than their turn to be the oppressor.
This book, I cried, I laugh a bit. And then it's like the colorism in this book. Oh my God.
Yes.
Yes. Like I said, this book is kind of way ahead of its time. You know, people talk about colorism today like it's something new. It's not new because you read this book and you see it in this book. And I was like, wow, you know,
yes,
colorism within your own race.
Oh, absolutely.
It was so much of it in this book. It's just like, there's so many different things that's happening in this world today that is in this book. Mm-hmm. I was like, wow.
Yes. I'm a
what an amazing book.
Wow.
I was telling Ellen the beautiful picture.
Oh, yes.
You will pick up the book and you will look at it and you never know what's on the inside.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
I mean, wow, sir.
No,
Excellent.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
I thank you for writing this
Wow.
book.
Wow. I'm so
Yeah.
honored. I'm so honored. I have like 2 more minutes. So
Yeah,
y'all,
I want to ask you, with this story, in writing it, when you wrote it, when did this story come to you, and why did this story? You already told us why, but for those who are on there, why did this story come to you, and when? And we know it was written into
Right.
2010.
Right. I think, Ellen, this story came to me because as a queer man myself, I think this story came to me because I carried enough history and carry enough understanding of issues of gender and sexuality, etc., that the spirit could trust me to tell this complicated story thoroughly.
Mhm.
See, most people would shave away parts of the uncomfortable parts of this story, right? As a writer, not only would I not do that, I was interested in exploring them completely, right? But very few people, I think, could actually be the spiritual conduit, if you will, for a story like this, because it asks a lot of the author, right? It asks the author not only to be open to this, but see, also, people come up to me all the time and say, "Oh, dear God, I can't believe that happened to you." And I'm like, what are you talking about? They think I'm perfect. Yes. They
Wow.
do. It happens all the time. And I say, "Oh, no, I'm not perfect." And they say, "Oh, you don't have to lie." And I'm like, "Oh my God."
Wow.
But I'm saying this because what it's shown me is that most people, or certainly many people, and certainly many Black people, are still wrestling with this notion of, can a person be queer and be divine? Like, does God approve? We have not answered that question collectively. In fact, for the most part, collectively, people do not think God approves of that existence. But then what puts us in the conundrum is, if God doesn't approve, then how do I love you and honor you and treat you if I think who you are, what you are is wrong?
Mhm.
Right? The irony is that that's the exact same thing white folks said to us 100 years ago. You're Black, you're not divine, there's nothing holy about you, right? Y'all are niggas, you can't marry, it's not legal for you to marry. All the things we're saying now to people, to queer people, was said to Black people,
Mhm.
right? So how easily we forget the boundaries of oppression, right? And how quickly we want to, if we're not very careful, get approval from our captors in such a way that we are willing to enslave our own brothers and sisters, certain ones of them, if we're not very careful, right? And so the one other thing I think that I would like to say is, first of all, I'm thrilled that you ladies read this book. All of you, right?
Thank you.
There are 3 on screen here, but this book club is huge, y'all. This book club is huge. There's over 150 or something of these amazing souls. So I'm very, very, very appreciative, right? And all of y'all out there in Facebook land, y'all press share, tell someone about Perfect Peace, etc. Because the thing I'm gonna tell you too is, from the looks of things, this might get to the screen.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so.
I hope so.
That would be awesome.
I hope
Very
so.
awesome.
Yeah. We'll see. But there is talk. And I think it would be phenomenal. I think it would really make an incredible movie. And I think it would do wonders in terms of helping a Black community we're not really wrestling with queer people, we're wrestling with God.
Mhm.
We're wrestling with whether or not we think God agrees.
Mm-hmm.
That's the issue.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's what we're really And the only reason we're wrestling with that is because we're really wrestling with somebody else's God. Now, I'll leave that alone.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
I'll leave that alone. But
Well, you said you had a go ahead with your butt, and then I'll.
okay, what I think.
I mean, not butt, but you know,
No, I
butt.
Yes, ma'am. No, I get it. But what I do think is, if we can ever get clear, and if we can ever define, if we can ever decide upon our own God, we would be clear that God would not send people to a community without God's sanction. Every person who comes our way is a piece of God. And the reason we have a hard time finding God is because we keep throwing away all the pieces.
Do you sing, sir?
I do.
Because that voice, oh my God.
Thank you. I appreciate
You. That's why it's beautiful.
Oh, thank you so much.
And you can
I want to say,
Thank
I
you.
would like to see you write a sequel to this, because I need to see what happened to Paul and his love life, and how did he, I know he's the great designer.
Yes.
I would love to just see.
Ma'am, listen, I don't see a sequel coming. Listen,
Okay.
I don't see it. I'm not saying it will never come. I'm just saying I don't see it,
Speaking it into existence.
Yes. And the truth is, we know what happened to Paul. Paul went to New York and became a successful designer, right? Which makes sense, though, if we really think about it.
Yes.
Because Paul was designed.
Right.
So the notion that he would be obsessed, the notion that he would be obsessed with designing is because his whole life was a designation.
Yes.
Right? His whole life was a construction. So Paul is fascinated, if you will, by the performance of gender and by the performance of creativity. His whole existence was a performance, right? And the irony too, and I'm really running out in the water and I'm gonna leave it here, is it might be true that Paul had to be a little girl first, because once Paul gets to the designing stage, Paul's creativity is informed by the totality of his existence. So it's almost as if, all things work together for the good. Y'all know the scripture. It's almost as if God used what Imogene did to Paul to construct Paul's own future, to construct Paul's very destiny. So what happened to Paul becomes in fact, the cornerstone for Paul's creative explosion.
If you remember what Sugar Baby had said about Paul, he's not going to die.
That's right. And he does not.
Die. And he does not.
He does not.
Do you guys think too, when he said he won't die, that he won't die spiritually, internally as well? I took it that way too.
I did too. Too. Yes.
Yeah, I took it that way, that his spirit was going to live. No matter which way he went, what direction, he was going to live and he was going to thrive. He just had to be come into himself and be assured that he was satisfied with whoever he was, and who he became. Yeah, he had to be comfortable with that.
Well, thank you again, Daniel Black. I know I came to your house, and I'm a guest at your house, hosting you at your house.
Listen, it's
Thank
wonderful.
you so much, and mine kept glitching. But for those that are out there, I'm Ellen Sudduth of ESP Presents an ESP Book Chat. We bring page turners your way. We also bring live authors, as we did Daniel Black. Do tell people about us. If you want your book to be shown or spotlighted on our show, do inbox me or tag yourself here or email us at mrssud@yahoo.com. I don't have my cover on mine. That's why I didn't show it, but I got it.
One last thing I'd like to say.
Okay.
There's another book many of you might enjoy titled The Coming, right?
Written by you?
Called The Coming, yes.
Written by you?
By me.
Will you come back again with that?
I will. I absolutely will.
Awesome.
The Coming is the story of the Middle Passage. The entire novel takes place on a slave ship in the middle of the ocean.
Okay.
The Coming. The COMMING?
Just one M.
Oh.
COMMING. The Coming. I think y'all would love that. And if you read it, I will be happy to come back, of course.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Most definitely.
Later this year, I have a new novel that's already at the publisher.
Yeah. What is that one?
That's coming out. It's titled Don't Cry for Me. Don't cry for me. It's the story of a Black man on his deathbed. He's on his deathbed and he writes a letter. The entire novel is a letter. He writes a letter to his estranged son, whom he hasn't seen in over 20 years. And the letter is telling his son how he hurt him, why he did what he did. It's trying to account for the wounds he left on his son's heart, so that his son won't spend the rest of his life hating him. But it's also trying to account for the ways that the world changed so much between his lifetime and his son's lifetime, that what he did was what he thought was right, was what he understood to be right. But in some ways, it destroyed him. And it's in many ways, it's trying to give his son the tools to heal himself even after he is gone.
Oh, we're definitely going to pick those up. And also one more thing in your book that you did bring out in Perfect that we don't talk about. We always talk about father wounds, but we never talk about mother wounds. And Emma Jean had a lot of mother wounds.
She did.
Yeah.
She absolutely did. She absolutely
Yeah.
did. So listen, y'all,
Well,
thank you for being here.
Thank you.
All of y'all in Facebook land,
Thank you.
Love you, love you. And if y'all need me again, let me know.
Oh, we
Well,
do.
I just
Definitely.
ordered my book. Yeah, I just ordered the Coming. So I just
awesome.
it's on its way.
Let me know.
Well, I'm gonna get the other two, and you'll be back again and again.
Would love it.
All right. Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
y'all.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye-bye.
Bye.